Here we are, folks. Another Tuesday evening. Welcome, 21st of May. And we'll just go into pre-show mode for a moment or two. Great to see everybody on. Interesting conversations in the chat. Jealous about people going to Japan. Nice part of the world. And also interesting to see the difference of climate. Perth's warm, Melbourne cold. I can tell you it's quite warm over here at the moment too, which is all good. Summer is at least here at the moment. And I've got Edwin teed up ready to come in. Just for those who are maybe not familiar with the setup here, firstly, we need to visit the docs. They are there, Luna and Meteor. Luna being the kelpie coloured one and Meteor being the black and white one. And they've had their lunch and are now sitting, hopefully, restfully through the show. That's the hope. They might get a bit agitated because there's people working outside. So if you hear some noises off, we'll probably get the dogs to go. And just to give you a bit of a view of the setup here, Edwin's there, ready to come in, teed up. He's just having his tea at the moment, which is good, ready to come. We've got the multi-view up there. We've got the chat there. We've got the program feed there, various other controls here. And the system over here is actually controlling the streamer, which is a separate piece of equipment that does the streaming to YouTube. And I'm pleased to say this time when I started it up, it all worked properly, which is good. Last time I had a bit of a shot, it didn't work properly, so I had to restart it. Sometimes turning it off and turning it on again is the thing to do. Anyway, I think that's enough pre-show waffle. Let me take that off. I'm going to start the show. I'll be back in a moment. Well, good evening and welcome to this live stream on the 21st of May 2024. It's Martin North here from Digital Finance Analytics. Great to have you on the stream this evening. And I see some new names as well as some old favourites coming back on the show tonight. So welcome. Great to have you here. Pleased to say that Edwin is teed up ready to come in. Just before I bring him in, I will remind you, as I often do, that we're not providing specific financial or property or legal advice. It's a general conversation only. We do moderate the stream, so please bear that in mind, but feel free to throw your questions and comments in. I won't necessarily follow all of what's going on because frankly, there's just so much going on in the chat generally. But if you want to get a question thrown at Edwin or myself, use @WalkTheWorld. That'll get it into my queue and get to my attention. I've also enabled Super Chat. And that means that you can make a contribution to what we do around here, always greatly appreciated, or indeed get your question to the top of the list. And on that, I will just mention that tonight, all of the Super Chats will be going to support Jill's charity, Asbestos Awareness Australia. We're still running that charity, of course, in memory of Jill. And any contributions tonight will go to help there. And I will also just mention that Edwin has agreed to provide one consultation for one lucky viewer who would like to do that. Now, we're not going to connect it to any financial contribution, but if you would like to be put on the list, to be selected from the list, we'll need to direct you to the DFA blog. And if you go to the DFA blog, down on the bottom right, you can see the little help button. If you click that, you can then see the form. And that form, if you complete that form and send it across to me, then I can put you on the list, and I'll then pick one from the list who'd be interested in having Edwin to pop in and have a look at the property ahead of sale. I would say, of course, that this is only going to be in the Greater Sydney region, and there'll only be one opportunity. So, but anyway, if anyone's interested, that's Edwin's offer, and I, Edwin, want to say thank you for that. With that, let me bring Edwin in. Edwin, hello, welcome.
Oh, it's good to be here, Martin. It only seems like I just had a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and we're back again.
Yeah, that's right. After our official Monday, it's our official Tuesday today. But look, this is a really important conversation, Edwin, because I think when I talk to people about putting their property in the market, I get a sense often that it's a bit of
a stronghold and superior comfort. If your mouth could talk, it would ask for.
There's something happening. Is it? I think it's at your end. What was that?
Oh, sorry. That my bad.
Okay, that's fine. All right, we had an interesting little noise.
My laptop got a little bit excited.
Yeah. Well, I can understand that. It's an exciting topic. What I was saying, Edwin, was that you know, the fact is that when you think about putting your property on the market, you need to think of it as a project. This is a project which is going to take a number of months to go through. So in my case, when I decided to sell my property, in Australia, decided in early October, completed the transaction late March. So that was 6 months. I think that's quite typical, actually, of the whole thing. So what we're going to try and do today is to talk about this journey, this project, right? And talk about some of the elements that need to be thought about to make this project successful. Because unfortunately, quite often what I hear and see is that people are making instinctive decisions without actually having this sort of slightly bigger view in mind. So that's how I think about it. Do you think that's a good way to think about it?
In terms of a project and with a time frame and putting it all together, definitely it has to be structured. Generally, a lot of oftentimes what ends up happening is that selling agents that do a lot of door knocking and that persuade vendors to go to market either prematurely, not well prepared, because we got to separate the need and the greed, right? We got to separate the need that you as an individual wanting to sell a property have and what reason? What is your reason for wanting to sell the property? And obviously, with that comes the price point at the end. And then there's the greed. The greed is how selling agents obviously want you to sell the property and want to put it on the market ASAP because they want to cash in on the commission as soon as possible, and that also determines the whole process. So that is what I call the need and the greed aspect of selling a property. So you've got to be focused. You got to be more persuasive than the selling agents are pushing you to, or they themselves are, in order to achieve that their greed, the commission at the end of the day. So if we can jot down some of the points and some of the things that we're going to walk through, I'd say that you will be in a much better position to achieve a much better result at the end of the day.
Yeah, and that's what it's about, isn't it? It's about getting the best outcome that you can. And obviously, this question of do I sell or don't I sell is sometimes a little bit sort of, off, on, off. Maybe it's dependent on external circumstances. Maybe it's dependent also on finding somewhere else to move to, et cetera, et cetera. One of the observations, and I was very lucky in my case, I was able to basically have two transactions running side by side, selling my property in Australia, buying my other property. And the two were connected, but not completely connected, meaning I could go one without the other or the other without one. But I wanted also to try and get the timing right, and I ended up, just to cut to the end of the story, right? I actually was able to complete the purchase on the Monday, pack up Monday, Tuesday, quit Australia Wednesday, land in the UK Thursday, having settled on the Thursday and Friday. So basically, by the end of that week, I'd actually done the whole thing. Now that was pretty organized to be able to do that, but it shows you that it is possible to manage this process well, but only if you actually think it through. And that's what I think we want to try and underscore today, Edwin, that there's a series of pretty important steps. So let's talk about the first step. You know, do I decide to sell? If I decide to sell, there is often the sort of initial appraisal that you can get from an agent. Now, the question, Edwin, is that initial appraisal worth the paper it's written on?
Look, often the case, the appraisal, in the most part, is made up of the data that we get from CoreLogic. I don't know any agent that doesn't have access to CoreLogic or Pricefinder, and you get a general overview of what the land value in the area is. Then you have to make an assessment as to what the value of the actual building on the land envelope. What are the attributes? What's it going for it? Local agents will have the finger on the pulse in being able to compare relatively closely what we say, apples with apples. Because they're active and they're doing market appraisals within the area. Having said that, we've got to be careful, obviously, with those market appraisals where they'll beef up the price in order to what we call buy the listing. By your custom, by you as a customer, let's say, for example, the property is worth on and or about 1.5 million. You'll have an agent that will come in and say that your property is worth 1.8 because these are things that they get taught. These are I've got them on video. I've got the manuals that have been sent to me, and this is what selling agents get taught: is they teach the staff or the members of the different groups of the different organisations to give the vendor a lot of hope at the beginning. In other words, inflate the price, and then within days, or if not within the first week of the marketing campaign, basically bring it back to reality, shock them into reality. So and as I said, I've got the videos of the different seminars where this has been taught. So we've got to be careful with that. So look, in general terms, because a lot of the people that are looking at selling the properties, they will have a general idea as to more or less what the price point of the property is. But particularly as a lot of people before they sell, they would have gone around the neighbourhoods or seen what other properties have come up on the market, and they would have attended the auction campaigns as well, which is a great thing to do anyway, to familiarise yourself with the way that the agents are presenting, what they're saying, how they're doing it, and also to get a rough idea get a comparison of your property with your neighbours' properties. And that's how you two can compare apples with apples. So you get a general indication, and that will also obviously determine what type of marketing campaign you take on in that. Going back a step, Martin, with regards to selling and choosing to sell, deciding to sell. Look, it worked out well for you, but it's very, very difficult to coordinate the sale of a property and the purchase of another property. And this is where a lot of people don't understand. And this is one of the main questions that a lot of people seem to struggle with as well. Each individual will be determined by their own case in their own how they're traveling. So the question is do you sell before you buy, or do you buy before you sell? And that is obviously up to each individual's decision, because carrying a bridging loan from one property to the next is very, very costly. But there are ways, and there are ways to protect yourself by having delayed settlements, by requesting delayed settlements, and also by extending the tenure of the contract. So generally in New South Wales, it's a 6-week period from purchasing a property to settlement is 42 days. Now that can be altered. It can be shortened, or it can be taken out to 90 days, 120 days, whatever you want. But depending on what time frame you choose to put on the contract of sale for settlement, will also determine what sort of potentially determine what sort of money you're going to get at the end of the day as well. Because and they're things that have to be decided both at the beginning and also on the actual day of sale, because if the purchaser may want a delayed settlement, may want an extension because they're in the process of selling, and they may be willing to pay an extra $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in order to get that extended period. And these are the things that need to be coordinated, need to be worked through. And these decisions, Martin, shall I say, can be fluid, but they can be controlled if you have the right agent, and also if you have the right legal conveyancer to take carriage of the contract.
Yeah, and I'll tell you about my previous purchase. When I moved from central Sydney down to the Illawarra, I actually had a delayed settlement of 12 months. And the reason for that was because the people who were buying the property needed to sell their own property, but also needed to get planning permission and everything else in train. And so it actually worked out really well, because they actually handed across the deposit to me, at the time we exchanged, which was again put into the contract, but we didn't complete for a year. And that gave me huge flexibility then to be able to find somewhere else to buy, and also gave me certainty about the journey. Again, it's about controlling the process. And I come back to this fundamental philosophical point. It's a project. It needs to be managed like a project. It means you've got to be thinking about all of the elements and holding it all together. And if you do that, then there's a good chance that you can manage it. So don't be necessarily locked into a standard settlement contract. Don't necessarily be locked into a lot of things. There is some flexibility there. And if you can actually build a good relationship with the person who's buying and selling, and basically get a win-win out of it, then it can work. Now, there was one other question that came in a little while ago, which I think from a valuation perspective was quite interesting. Let me see whether I can turn it up. This came from down under Drover. Ask Edwin, allowing for CoreLogic's building index costs. And, what about that as a basis? Because, of course, there is a sort of a square footage, a building cost, which is effectively the cost of building something, and yet the market value may or may not be connected to the building cost. So how does that bit of the jigsaw puzzle work?
Look, I guess I learned how to put values on property. I sort of studied a little bit more than your average koala bear out there selling properties. And because I made it a point, and my licensee in charge made me take on extra activities in order to learn. And I learned early in my days to also being involved with buying, selling, flipping, renovating, and getting involved with the building side of things. Able to determine the values of existing structure. An existing structure does have a value, and I think we spoke about it. I think on about 12 months ago, 12 months ago, we spoke about how now I believe that even the older homes have greater value because of the construction costs and determining what it would cost. So, well, look, there are rules of thumb, as I say, that I apply to valuing a property, and it can be complicated for many people, but when you do it over and over again, it's not that complicated. The unfortunate thing is, Martin, that 8 out of 10 selling agents wouldn't know what to do, and you really have to find a seasoned selling agent that would have a better understanding. With a lot of them, it's hit and miss. So they don't understand the values. They don't understand construction costs. They don't understand what it would cost to how much it would cost to renovate. But there are certain rules that you could follow through. Like right now, for example, across the Sydney region, you could easily say that renovations could run anywhere between 3,700 to 4,200 per square meter that you want to renovate and on an existing dwelling. Construction is running at the moment at upwards of 5,200 per square meter. And it's all determined by the fixtures and fittings. It's all determined by, as we say, the bells and the whistles that you want to put in the home, how you want to finish it. You want to finish it with proper timber flooring or engineered flooring. Everything has a cost, and so there are certain rules. So each house has its unique properties. And each, even apartments have their own unique properties. A lot of people think that renovating an apartment is going to be cheaper than renovating a house because it seems to be smaller. But they forget about the fact that you have to deal with owners' corporations. You have to deal with going up and down stairs. You have to get rid of rubbish. You can't. Your times are limited to for access. To do certain things. So all these play a big part. So in the decision-making process, and like, as you say, so it has to be a process. It has to be a project, and you have to think about all those things and put them all at play. But I say a lot of these things, Martin, are fluid, and you need to work with people that can work with you. You need to work. The professionals around you have to work with you, not against you. And that's a key element in buying property and selling property. Look, going back a point, we bought a property for a client over in Eastwood, and I got told a little bit more than what I needed to know, or that any buyer would need to know about the individual. But and this is why it comes back to need and greed, right? So we pandered to the greed of the agent. The old girl that owned the property wanted to, she was wanting to buy, and she'd actually put a deposit down on, in a premises in a nursing home, and that was her need to sell. But we forced the sale of the property in a very hot market, in a very contentious market. We forced the sale of the property two weeks prior to the day of the auction. And I believe that if the property had gone to auction, we would have had to pay an extra anywhere between $120,000 and $150,000 more for the property. And there's your need and the greed. The vendor had the need to sell the property, but I don't believe that need for the vendor to sell the property could have been extended another 2 weeks. But because the agent's greed for a quicker commission, it meant that we got the property, let's say $100,000, rounded off to $100,000 cheaper than what it would have sold for at the auction. These are the things that you got to be careful in choosing the agent, choosing the professionals, your conveyancer, your solicitor, and anybody else on the other side that you require. Your talking to your accountant, looking at your finances, looking at your position, whatever it is. All the professionals around you have to be working in lockstep with you, not against you.
Yeah, and that's quite important. And I guess part of that then, Edwin, is the question of, which agent do you go with? And I always think it's really good to get, multiple appraisals rather than just rely on the first one that pops up. But also, I think it's quite important to do a bit of your own homework. And certainly in New South Wales, you can still go on to the Valuer General's site and actually make a query on the street that you're in, and you can see all the recent transactions, which gives you quite a good grounding as to what properties were actually truly sold for over recent times. And that's quite a valuable insight. And that's often a little bit more objective than the rather ebullient valuations that many agents come in with initially, right? Because as you say, what they try to do is to float a big number under your nose, saying, "Well, if you will come with us, we're going to make this level," and then of course over time they have to peel it back to something more sensible. So, in terms of the beauty parade, what are the sort of the things that you would recommend that people would actually check against? I guess local footprint, local experience, local knowledge is all good, but what else?
In terms of the talent that you're going to interview
the sales agent who's going to be involved in assuming that you go with an agent in the first place. That's an interesting question we might come to.
Yeah, look, you're obviously going to need to interview at least three agents, whether it be name brand agents or independents. You'd have to choose those that are active in the area or in general, because you can an outside agent could be a better agent for you. I used to always say, when I was on that side of the fence, I said local agent, local price. An agent from the outside, and that's how I used to compete with a lot of agents in other areas where I used to where I got called in to do a market appraisal in homes way outside my local patch, as they say. So and I used to say to the vendors, they say, well, look, you choose your local agent, you're going to get your local price. But I come from a different area where I can persuade people with a little bit more money to come and view your property, or I'm not persuaded by the local buyers. We're going to be looking further afield. And these are the many things that you're going to have to you're going to have to interview the agent. Look at. They'll all tell you they've got a database. Right. Back in the day when I started in real estate, the database was called the white pages. Right. That was the database that we had when an agent went in there to do a market appraisal on a house, and they told you that, they've got a database of buyers. Yeah, I used to say, that database is called the white pages. And then when they nowadays it's I've got a database of buyers. Yeah, that's called domain and real estate, because they're usually the buyers that just sort of move around the circle, looking around the area. But there are some. This is where I believe now is more so than ever is where you need to be focused, and you need to start looking as now. We're talking purely as sellers, right? So you need to start looking at people that genuinely are bilingual. And bilingual, I mean, they understand other cultures? It could, in the most part, if you can speak, if you've got an agent that can speak Mandarin and Cantonese, or they've got Mandarin and Cantonese speaking associates you're on a winner, particularly in the areas where we're now getting in the Sydney region, where we're getting a lot of eyes on from these groups of people that speak both Mandarin and Cantonese, and that's a very persuasive, and you can bring in more money to the table. Obviously, with the Indian community, it's a lot more diverse than the Chinese. They've got a lot more languages, but again, there is a way to approach the Indian community in terms of if you do have an extension or arms into those communities, a little bit harder, because they're not as cohesive as the WeChat chatterers, because of the WeChat platform. I mean, there's no platform because they're so divided amongst themselves. But the Vietnamese contingency is going to be very popular, and it's grown in popularity. And there are areas that you'd be surprised where the Vietnamese community are buying. So, and if you're working with an agent or an agency that can be bilingual, or have staff members that can assist in the marketing, well, you're on a winner. You're obviously going to attract greater attention to the property, and you're going to be able to be more persuasive, or tell showcase the property a lot more to a greater mass of people. So that's one of the things that you're going to be looking at. Obviously, you're interviewing the agents for the way that they present themselves, what they say, how they say. Look, agents are being interviewed. Agents are being interviewed at open house inspections. Agents are being interviewed whether they know it or they don't know it. They've been, they're going through an interview process at an open house inspection. They're going through an interview process in the way that they hold auction campaigns, and that's your first interview. You're not necessarily spending a lot of time with the agent. You're not telling them that you're going to put your property on the market for sale, but you're in a way you're already making first point of contact with the agents, and they're being interviewed by people that are looking at putting the properties for sale on the market. So that's one of the ways. And once you've sort of got an idea, you could be interviewing two agents from the same agency, two selling agents from the same agency, and that could be miles apart in the way they present. That could be at odds. And again, you also got to go with an agent, as I said, that they can work with you, that they're willing to work with you, not wanting to run their own race. But because you got to be in lockstep, you got to be in uniform, you got to be on the same level, and not being dragged by the nose here, there, and everywhere. Again, because of the greed factor. So I'd interview at least 3 agents, and as they come through the door, I like to hold the interviews for agents. Back to back. So as one's going out, the other one's coming in, because it creates. You've got to create that for them to want to do whatever it takes to obtain your business, and that goes in the way that they're going to, the marketing campaign, the fees they're going to charge, what they're prepared to do, how they're going to be prepared to do it. One of the fundamentals, or one of the cornerstones, I believe, of going with an agent is the one of the strongest pillars that you could have in an agent is if the agent has got vested interest. If they've got skin in the game, Martin. If they don't have skin in the game, well, that's the wrong agent. You've got to have an agent that's got skin in the game, and that skin in the game could be by way of how they're going to carrying the load on the marketing campaign, carrying the load in preparing the house for sale, carrying the load in terms of putting the nose on the chopping block if they don't achieve a certain price, and cutting back on the commission. In other words, you have a scale up or a scale down. If you're telling me that the house is worth 1.5 million, well, what's your penalty if you don't achieve the 1.5? So they've got to have skin in the game. They've got to be prepared to have skin in the game, because that is how you're going to have somebody that is determined. Because obviously, if they've got skin in the game, they've got something to lose.
Yeah, and just quickly, the idea of not using an agent at all, but listing it yourself. I know that there are a few people who've tried that, and I guess with varying degrees of success. And that there are these online alternatives rather than using an agent. Perspective on that, Edwin? Is it worth a look at, or are you going to basically give up on elements by going down that route?
Now, look, there was a time where I sat in a debate, and I got given it was, and this was one of the questions in that debate. It was put together by I can't remember her name, and we were debating the same topic. So, look. In that debate, at that time, I said that who is the better individual to sell the property, the home, than the than the owner themselves, particularly if they've been in that property for a very long time. They know every nook and cranny. They know every square inch of the property. When people say that they need a real estate agent because they've got the gift of the gab, or they need a salesperson, they need somebody that can talk underwater with marbles in their mouth. Yeah, that's a best-selling agent. I dispute that logic, because it's not about selling. Homes sell themselves. I've always said to my teams that I've worked with over the years in the sales side of things, I've said, we are here to tell a story. We are storytellers. And this is the point, and this is where I hung my hat on in that debate, is that the best person to tell the story about a property or about a home is the homeowner, right? Now, obviously, a lot of homeowners or property owners they become very emotional, and they don't fare well when it comes to negotiating price, and they can be somewhat there's too much feelings, and hence the reason why they adopt to use a third party to sell. So in that respect, to bridge that that thought, to bridge it, I would then say to the homeowners, I would then say, tell me everything. I want to sit on your lap. I want you to tell me, how many freaking nails you put in the floorboards when you nailed them down when you were building the house. I want to know how many bricks you laid, or the brickies that you contracted laid, because and a lot of owners knew that. There was a house that we bought for a client that was owned by a local builder, and his wife was an architect. As a matter of fact, they were both architects, but he was also a builder. And it was fascinating just to sit there when I was looking at the house to purchase for a client of mine, and he knew that he himself, with the bricklayers, laid 75,000 bricks. Now, I wasn't going to go and count them. It was a big house, and the piers under the house were massive. So it's all about storytelling, being able to tell the story. So from that point of view, but the unfortunate thing is, a lot of times emotion gets in the way, Martin, and this is where selling your own property gets pear-shaped, and then you'll see a lot of adverts on Domain and on real estate, more so on real estate. You see a lot of by people selling their homes, and the photos are shocking, the presentation is shocking. I'm not saying that that's always the case, but look, 8 out of 10 times, again, that's what comes across, and the price point is way off. And you've got to be able to, if you're going to show a price, you've got to be pretty much on the money. Otherwise you lose a lot of interest, and you see a lot of these properties wane on market, labour on market for a very long time, and this is where people start believing that there's something wrong with the property, and therefore they stay away. And it might be a great property, but because of the way because of the approach. So this would come back. This is why we come back to the point of selecting the agent, and you make them have the vested interest in the sale. You make them have skin in the game, and therefore you make them you give them as much ammunition in order to get the best result, and then the commission becomes insignificant at the end of the day when you achieve a much better price. But there are some people that could hold their ground, and there are some people that don't get emotional, and usually the people that are like that are usually people that have transacted on properties more than once, and or they're doing it as a business or as extracurricular activity, buying and flipping, or renovating and selling and moving on to the next one, things like that. They're usually more experience. It's more numbers. It's more numbers than emotion.
Yeah, and you make a really important point there. experience is quite important. And, you know, if you've bought and sold a lot of property, you've probably got more of a sense than if you do it just once or twice through your life. I guess the other question then is, you know, you've boiled it back and you found an agent that is sounding credible, looking credible, and is saying sensible things to you, and you feel you can communicate. I think the ability to be able to feel that you can communicate effectively with the agent, and the agent tells you about the mechanisms they're going to use to keep you in the loop and make sure that the communication is two-way. But there's also some documentation that needs to be put in place, and obviously there's an agreement between the prospective seller and the agent, which is effectively the contract for the services provided, and then you need to get some other material together, including probably a draft contract, particularly important if you're trying to move relatively quickly, but also other documentation. And this is where you come into the question of, so do you get a survey done to attach to the draft contract, and do you also provide other information, for example, you know, the approvals and everything else, to show that the property is up to date with regard to council approvals and things. Now, those can be all quite important steps to creating effectively a pack which then can be engaged with around a sales process. Any thoughts there in terms of what you should and what you shouldn't do at that stage?
Yeah, well, and this is something that you have to take stock, and this is where, obviously, being currently working as a buyer's agent, we take all that's given to us by the agent by way of building reports and the like. We don't trust that as much as we use it for a bit of fire in the wood, in the barbecue. So, yeah, I was going to say something else, but I did that thing quickly. But yeah, so look, it does help. Obviously, if you've got nothing to hide, it helps. It helps a lot, and because of the time frame that a lot of properties stay on the market and how quickly they move, the more you can give to prospective buyers by way of information, the less they're going to be running around, and the more inclined they're going to be to attend the auction, to be prepared to attend the auction and also pay more for it. Now, there's, in terms of material fact, a selling agent needs to disclose material facts. That is a must. Now, obviously, it's up to the individual seller, and often the case that agents say, "Don't tell me if there's anything of this or that nature, because if you don't tell me, then I don't know. Then I don't have to disclose." I mean, that's all BS. But there are ways to find a lot of these things out anyway. But unfortunately, a lot of buyers don't do, and they're not prepared. They're not as prepared as what we are in terms of buying. In terms of other documentation, one of the things that you need to address, and as I've always said, is don't give the agency more than 8 weeks. But unless for special circumstances, there's no need to give an agency 8 weeks. More than 8 weeks. They usually request a 3-month or 12-week exclusive agency agreement. If they're going to run an auction campaign, I mean, a quick auction campaign or even a long auction campaign. Now, long auction campaigns is 4 weeks. There's no reason why they should even have more than 6 weeks. But because it takes a bit of time to prepare the house in some agents, and you may need to have it styled or have it refurnished or whatever, and do the photos and videos and everything else, floor plans. It takes a bit of time. So 6 to 8 weeks is good enough in my books, because then that'll determine whether or not the desired price point is achieved, and then the property doesn't have to linger on market with the same agent. And again, that is another way of holding the feet to the fire. And that's part of what I say. Have skin in the game. Make them commit. And if they're not going to commit to that, or if they're not going to, they want, and like again, I say, well, why the 3 months when auction campaigns only take 4 weeks, and then after that, and before that, it's a couple of weeks of preparing the marketing, because you would have already been preparing the property for sale in terms of the way it's presented. As I always used to say to vendors, first impressions count, and those impressions are made online when they first view the property online, and because you can see a lot of things in photos of properties that a lot of people don't realise. And one of the things under our legislation is that we can't doctor photos. We can use fisheye lenses. We can sort of enhance the aperture, or enhance the light gradient and all that, but we can't doctor photos by getting rid of trees, or getting rid of power poles, or high voltage, or any other things in front that stand in front of the small, that's what do you call it, not power stations, the small sometimes sit in front of the people's properties. You can't hide that, or big water tanks that sit behind the property. There are certain things, but by looking at photos, you can also see internally how they present. I've been able to see properties where they've got water issues, or in photos, because agents have been quick to take photos, and a lot of sad to say, there's still a lot of agents that just use their iPhones to take photos of homes, and then they just sort of clean those up and put them online. And yet they're charging for professional photography, and they don't even get a professional in. It's usually the agent themselves. I know many agents that do that. And there's many properties online that I can see watermarks on the ceilings, and when I get there, that's the first thing I go to, and sure enough, it's water stain, and then you've got to start thinking, well, what's happening above? So all these things, Martin, are very, very important. All the documentation, all the presentation, the preparation, very, very important. And these are things that you need to work with, again, with a selling agent and other professionals, handyman, other teams. Then you got to decide, if you've got if you've got a bit of a turd, there's only so much you can, so much polish you can put it on a turd before you take it to market. You got to decide what you're going to do. Or there's only so much lipstick you can put on a pig, before you take it to auction. But you just got to decide. You got to look at what the value add that you're putting in. Generally, cosmetic, maybe just a cosmetic, quick, simple, liquor paint, redoing the flooring, and Bob's your uncle. But then again, Martin, from the rants that we've had, you look at how people are fascinated by the shiny bench tops and the showroom bathrooms. It doesn't cost a lot to get a showroom bathroom or a showroom kitchen, put in a property, and it'll demand a lot more on the other side. So the rule of thumb is, if you're going to spend 20,000, you want to be perception wise, you want to think to yourself that that 20,000 is going to generate an extra 100 on the other side.
Yeah, and it is important, because no doubt about it, first impressions are pretty important. A lot of people, when they first look at a property, they look pretty superficially. So if there's stains, or if there's bad decoration, those sorts of things, it can really turn people off. I do find, interestingly, not many people seem to be able to look beyond what they are seeing, and can look at the bones and see the real potential. But so it's important. But then on the other side, you want to make sure you don't actually spend too much time and money and effort. As you say, putting a lipstick on a pig, right? It's still a pig. And so trying to get that balance right. And I actually think it's quite good to have a conversation with somebody who really knows their stuff as to what is the right amount. So in my case, when I was looking to sell, it was clear to me that the outside of the property looked a little bit dingy. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't flash. So we got somebody to come and put some fresh paint on it, and it looked so much better. The photographs were just much more stunning as a result of that, and I think that helped. And then the other thing, clean the windows, of course, and also, if there's a lot of, I had a lot of spider webs on the outside of the property, and we got those all cleaned off, as well, so that effectively it looked smart superficially. And in fact, the window cleaning probably was the thing that was in a way the most transforming in terms of actually what we did. I'm also quite skeptical about display bathrooms and things because, as we've discussed before, you can spend a certain amount on making it look superficially flash, but anybody who then actually has a survey done would be able to tell whether it was really done or whether it was just done for selling purposes.
Yeah, look, and the questions and decisions you have to make before you sell. You have to look at the budgets, but look, there are. This is why people buy homes. They buy homes, renovate, and resell. They flip homes because we know what to do. There's a house that we helped one of our buyers. He's actually a real estate agent, and we got an arborist in, and we've removed 6 trees across the backyard, and now it looks like you don't need internal house lights because of the amount of natural light that the back windows are getting, because it was being blocked by these 6 trees. Now he thought we were going to spend about $15,000 to remove the trees, but it only cost us $4,500 to remove the trees. So, and this is where a lot of people get caught out, unfortunately, is because not only do they not know the cost of trades, because you can do things relatively cheap, again, but you have to work with professionals that know, and the agents. A lot of agents do have good contacts and they do have good connections with local trades because they're using them over and over again because of the rent rolls that they have, and they're obviously maintaining a lot of the properties for a lot of the landlords. So that's something that you could tap into as well. So, and then look, a lick of paint doesn't hurt. Something neutral. You definitely. I love buying homes where people have just gone absolutely crazy with feature walls, because people just look at it and they just sort of walk in and walk out. Whereas, and then you'd be surprised by neutral colours will do, and you just keep it uniform. Give people a blank canvas. You give people a clean blank canvas to work with. Flooring. Obviously, if you've had pets. You just replace the carpets, and there's some cheap, engineered flooring that can be put down relatively cheaply and look, cleans things up and brightens things up. So that's a key. Yeah. So that's on a case by case basis, and depending on what price points you want to achieve.
Yeah, and I think it's horse for courses, right? But it's an important process. 2 other questions. The first one is, do you dress the property? I guess, if you've got an auction and you're heading to a specific date that you know for sure is going to actually, come, you might decide to do that. I'm amazed how often people say, "Oh, that furniture's too big. Let's go and put that in store, and then put the more miniature furniture in to make the rooms feel bigger." Right. So there's some of that goes on. I guess again, you don't want to go too far because you can spend a lot of money on set dressing, can't you?
Yeah, and look, and a lot of people don't know, and they get conned into going to full packages that run anywhere between $7,000 to $15,000 to stage a house. There are now companies. There are a lot more companies now that will actually do partial staging. They'll actually use most of the furniture that you have, put some of it in store, and then just dress it up. You can also hire stylists that'll just have soft furnishings in the van and then just style by using your own furniture. It depends on how it's being presented. It's very difficult. The difficulty is when you've got tenants. That's and what we used to do. We used to offer the tenants, a free makeover, a free maintenance clean, and we used to talk our tenants into allowing us to just use staging with soft furnishings, or just adding a little bit more color here and there, and not being as intrusive. And you just got to work with with your tenants, with the people around you. So you've got to work with your budgets. So if you've got a budget, then you've just got to work with it. And if your budget is limited, well, you keep it to your first impressions, your gardens, the front, the appearance of the home, the appeal. Because as soon as people step out from the cars on the onto the footpath and look at the house from the footpath, they see the first thing they see is the gardens, the facade, and the roof. And if you're limited with a budget, well, that's where you spend your money, cleaning up the yard, freshening up the facade, and cleaning the roof tiles. Because that is first impressions count. So you sort of work from that, and then you work backward. Then you work in the house to to the liquor paint, to the flooring, and depending on your budget. But if your budget is limited, it's the first impressions that count.
Yeah, and it's you only make one opportunity to make a first impression, right? And that's actually pretty important. I just wanted to acknowledge Jason's contribution to Asbestos Awareness Australia, and just to say that the Asbestos Awareness link is actually in the show notes, because you can't actually put it in the chat. So those who are interested in Asbestos Awareness Australia and the site, which contains all the information that Jill's research and all the information we've done since then, all the lobbying we've done to try and raise awareness. So thanks again for all those providing support via the super chat for that. It's really appreciated. So Edwin, one of the key questions: auction versus private treaty sale. A lot of interesting tussling going on. I have a feeling that auctions are more, as we discussed in previous shows, to the benefit of the agent rather than the benefit of the vendor often.
Yeah, look, yes and no. Yes, they are in most cases, but not in all cases. In terms of depending on the area and what type of house, what type of property, what type of what it is. Is it a development site? Does it have potential for a builder? Does it have potential for a developer? Does it have potential to subdivide? Yeah, all these things have to be taken into account. The thing that I dislike about auctions is not necessarily the process, but the motivation that the agents have, or the way that they abuse the process. So if you go and the campaigns are relatively short, and if you're gonna, in most cases, whether it's a private treaty or an auction campaign, you got these agents that are beating their chest and they even put stickers on the signboards that say sold in 1 week, sold in 3 days. So shit, the market is so hot, and you think you got a shit hot price, and you sold the property in 3 days, and you're beating your chest. Seriously, that's, to me, it doesn't compute. It's like that robot in Lost in Space. Danger, danger, danger. Just doesn't compute. It's really the motivation again, Martin. We go back to the need and the greed of the agents. Unfortunately, most of the agents, it's not the process. It's the facilitator of the process that needs to be questioned. Now, there's a lot of private treaty. There's all sorts of novel ideas out there. You've got by tender, of homes being sold by tender, where it was unheard of at one stage. You got to submit a tender. You've got to then there's these star partners who've got this other funny, quirky sales process as well. So they've all come with novel ideas, obviously to corral and to, as they say, to force people to make quick decisions. I sort of tend to think that if people are making a quick decision, they're not really falling in love with the property, and therefore you're not squeezing all the juice out of that lemon. You really want to you got to give people time. You got to give people time. You got to give people time to do the due diligence, to get all the reports in order. And the reason why you get a building and pest inspection report, when I used to get my vendors to get building and pest inspection reports, was so that we can then fix any major issues before the property was taken to market. That was the premise of our building and pest inspection reports before taking a property to market. So then, therefore, there'll be less objections that we would have to face or confront from purchasers. So you basically you remedy the situation, or if the vendor wasn't prepared to remedy the situation before sale because of finances or time frame, well then we got a professional quote that we attached to our marketing material. And when people were made aware of certain defects in the property, we also had professional quotes. Some cases 2, some cases 3 quotes from different companies to say this is what it would cost to remedy. So we were already prepared. That was the reason why you do a building and pest inspection, not to hide things, but it was more to bring to life so that things can get sorted. Again, I think it's not so much the process, Martin. It's the person that's got carriage of the campaign. How they're going to use it? Are they going to use it to the best advantage of the vendor, or are they going to abuse it because they've got itchy fingers and they've got an itchy wallet and they want a quick commission?
Yeah, and it's interesting. I take my own sale as an example, right? We decided not to go the auction route, but to go for private viewings and private treaty. We decided not to put a board outside and not to have a regular show time, but effectively viewing by appointment. Now, we did that because the property was relatively swish, and we wanted to give an air of exclusivity. And the perspective that we had was there would be a relatively small number of interested parties rather than actually having thousands come through. Now, that was the type of property it was and where it was. The other thing that we did, though, was that we actually, it's like playing a fish, right? We had 2 or 3 people who were really quite interested. And that process of negotiation and playing the fish until we actually came to a price that we were comfortable with, that took a few weeks. And I think it's really important to stress what you just said, Edwin. If somebody comes up and offers you, money on the first day, as it were, chances are that isn't necessarily the best deal that you can get. So unless there's an air of desperation that you have to do something quickly, sometimes allowing that flexibility and the time to play the fish is pretty important to get the best possible that you can. Again, it takes a lot of effort from the agents to do that, but that's what you're paying them for. So to my mind, that should be part of the bundle.
Yeah, and that's right. And this is why we brought out that, in that show, that a couple of shows we've done on how much does an agent earn when you start adding all the hours that they spend on a property in the Sydney region. I mean, we've done the math. And it comes to about $1,436 per hour is what you're paying the agent to assist you with the sale of the property. I mean, that's per hour. That's not per day. I mean, that's senior counsel fees. That's what it is. And this is why, again, we go to the need and the greed, and we go to the fact that, and we want to make sure that the selling agents have, you put the feet to the fire, and they've got to have skin in the game. And and again, going back to that skin in the game, another part of that metaphor is they have to have the time vested interest in your property. So this bullshit. Half-hour open house inspections on a Saturday between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. I mean, that's ludicrous. That's absolutely insane. How how can you get a genuine a person that's looking into the property get genuinely involved and generally enthralled, and how can you get them emotionally attached when they're in and out of the house in 5 to 10 minutes? This is what a lot of them don't understand, because obviously they want to go home early as well on the Saturday. They've got families themselves, but then you're paying them to do a job. So I generally, when I'm talking with clients on behalf of clients that I'm helping them to sell properties, and we're interviewing agents, well, that's one of the things that I ask. I ask for a 1 hour open house inspections. That is the time during the week on a Saturday. And I also ask the question when I'm interviewing the agents if they're prepared to work on the Sunday as well, because Saturdays, I swear, there is more traffic on the road, and that's perpetual peak hour traffic on a Saturday between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. It's peak hour traffic because everybody's on the road on a Saturday. All the mums taking the kids to sport, ballet, swimming, and God knows what else. Dad's got his sports car out and about. Grandpa, Pop and Nan, they're out in the vintage car, parading around the streets as well. Little Jane and young Johnny, they're out in their cars. Visiting mates as well. I mean, everybody's got the cars on cars, bikes, and skateboards. Everything that's on wheels is on the road on a Saturday. So it's peak hour from 9. So this is the hard thing. Now, just one extra thing to that choosing the agent. You've also got to, when you're choosing the agent, if you do decide to go with an auction campaign, you've got to ask the agent the question if the auctioneer that they propose to use for the auction campaign, if they are going to visit the house before the day of the auction, or are they only going to visit the house on the day of the auction? Again, how can an individual take carriage of the biggest asset that you may have in amassed in your life, and you're putting it in the hands of an individual that's turned up flustered because they got caught in traffic and they're running 5-10 minutes late to your auction. They don't know the attributes of the house. How can they tell the story? How can they continue to build that emotional attachment between the buyers and the house that they're willing to buy and throw more money at it if this individual knows jack about the property and is just reading the marketing material 5 minutes before the auction? I think that I've seen too many auctions go pear-shaped by the way that the auctioneers have conducted themselves.
Absolutely. No doubt about that. I saw that. I used to live close to Mossman, Cremorne in Sydney, and we used to go around and see some of the auctions there. And it was clear that the auctioneer had no idea what they were selling. They basically rocked up 5 minutes before. And that means, of course, that you've got the blind leading the blind, basically, because you have quite a few prospective purchasers who haven't done their due diligence either. You've got an auctioneer who doesn't know the property. You've got the agent who's hopefully a little bit more informed. It's a mess. That's why I've always believed that auctions are actually not necessarily as powerful a sales mechanism as many would say they are. But we've said before, the reason is that agents love them because they get to charge extra for the marketing and the collateral around the auction. That it's a shorter, more controlled process. They spend less time at the property. It's all for the benefit of the auctioneer rather than
that's right
for the prospect of the vendor or the purchaser. So that's why I've always believed that there are better routes than auctions. And the last 2 or 3 properties that we bought, we did an auction. We didn't, it wasn't sold later by auction. It was actually sold privately. Now the other question is. On the question of negotiation, right? I want to highlight again, Edwin, that being bounced into making a quick decision, which is what the agent will often do, isn't often the best thing to do. Sometimes it is worth just pausing and thinking. On the other hand, as the purchaser of a property, relatively recently, I actually had a conversation with the agent along these lines. I said, okay, before I make an offer, I want to know what figure it would take to take this property off the market and effectively not allow any more people to view it, right? And I had that conversation first, even before I came to the point of actually making an offer. Now, I think that's a relatively sophisticated way of doing it, but it's quite a good way of doing it, right? So before you actually put any offer on the table, get to understand what the vendor is thinking about, which means that the vendor needs to have a view in their own mind as to, what is the right level? What is a level at which I'm actually prepared to transact? And, when I sold my last property, I had a view as to what I knew was a level that I would be comfortable with, but I wouldn't go below it. And I hope to get above it. And I managed to get above it. But that bit of thinking is quite important, isn't it?
Look, it is. And this is where a lot of agents shoot themselves in the foot. Because when they go in and they fluff up the value of the property, they buy the listing and they overshoot the price of the property, and then you've got a genuine buyer, and they're in where the price is. But the agent has created a rod for themselves, and they're battling with their own mind as to what's the vendor going to think when the offers come in at this price point? Not because I've told them that the house is worth $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 more, and this is where a lot of agents come unstuck, and you can't have those sort of conversations like you said, Martin. But if you've got somebody that's on the money, that's on the ball, that's willing to work with it, and will actually. And they're going to, you're comparing the market appraisals, the CMAs, the comparative market analysis that the different agents are giving you, and one's at 1.5, the other one's at 1.3, and the other one's at 1.25. Well, then it starts to tell a story, and then obviously when we go in there ourselves in assisting our clients, we go in there with our own values as well, because we did the same research that a selling agent would do in order to determine more or less what the value of the property would be. Now you'll also find that the better agents, and this is where I got to meet your selling agent, Martin, and we'll give Adam a plug. That people can do their own research. We won't tell surnames or where he works. But so out of the three agents that we interviewed recently for a client, in helping one of our clients to prepare the home for sale in your old neck of the woods. Out of the three agents, Adam was the only one that said, look, this is the first time I've had a look at your house internally. And there's because there was no photos, because obviously the owner of the property has been in there for 32 years. So it hasn't been rented. So there's no clear indication. So he said, look, I would be a fool to give you a definitive price on the property or a range, because I would need to go back and do a little bit more research now that I've seen the internals, the fixtures, the fittings, the layout in more detail, as opposed to the other two agents that came in with an inflated price, and one that came in with something just above the value of the land. So, and that said a lot. And that's as much it would have been enticing to go with the agent that said that the house was worth $200,000 more than what even I believed it was worth, as is. But unfortunately, a lot of people fall for it, and then they go and buy a property on the other side, and then they have to make a quick decision, and then come day of the auction, the highest bid is at 1.25, and then they're stuck. They're stuck with bad decisions, bad transactions all around. So this is where this is where it's it's also critical to understand and again understand who you're working with and the reasons why they are taking you in a certain path. And as I said, you've got to have that, build those relationships, build those how can I put it, those bonds in knowing that you're going to be working in lockstep together, not against. They're not going to be working against you. So it's something. It's a process. It certainly is a process, and it all unravels, and it goes back to, again, like we said earlier on. You got to take this on as a project and manage it right through. Then the decisions of accepting offers, what offers. But more importantly, I guess one step before that is making sure that the agents don't divulge more information than what it's necessary. And a lot of them will. I mean, they do to us. They tell us more than what we need to know. And particularly Dusty and Evan, the Asian agents, tell Dusty and Evan, all sorts of things, and for us it's great as buyers, as acting for buyers. It's a great place to. But from a vendor's point of view, you got to be so careful what the agent says or doesn't say, because that could be the difference between an extra $50,000 in at the end of the day, or an extra 100,000, or you could go 50 or 100 in the opposite direction. So it can be costly. So that's got to be if I can use the term, monitored very, very closely, and they've got to be told or instructed what they can say, what they can't say.
Yeah, and I think the trick here is you want to share the right amount of information with the agent so they've got enough of a sense of, where your thinking is and what you're trying to achieve, without necessarily giving, every chapter and verse. The second is, I think it's really important to get regular updates from the agent as the process continues, because to my mind, it's a joint project, right? So you've not outsourced everything to the agent. What you're actually doing is working collaboratively with the agent, and so it's really important that they actually are providing you with updates on a relatively regular basis. Which clients are actually showing interest, what they're saying, etc., etc. That allows you to then shape your expectations a little bit too. So this dialogue, this continual process, which again, I come back to think 6 months, don't think 2 weeks, right? Think 6 months to sort of work this all the way through, because there are just points through where it will take a little while to work through and allow things to settle. One other interesting observation, we were talking about when to view. It's this interesting observation that, of course, some properties look a lot better at certain times of the day. So when you think about when people come round, it's worth thinking about that. I remember seeing one property that was only ever available for viewing on a Sunday. And I could never figure out why until I went around the corner and realized there was a dry cleaning service that was running Monday to Saturday, 9 till 5. And of course, you could hear the machinery in the background, but it was never running on a Sunday. So they had all of their open events and showings only on a Sunday, right? So that's something to bear in mind. So there are reasons sometimes why you want to show, and there are also reasons why, if you're a prospective purchaser, you want to say, maybe I should go around a different time of day too.
Yeah, and this goes back to being able to tell the story, sharing the story. You as a house owner, you're going to know when you got the most light coming into the property, coming into the apartment, into the living areas.
Yep.
You're going to know when the neighbours' dogs get up and start barking, or when the cat, when the local cat decides, goes and harasses your next door neighbour's dogs. It's like clockwork. You're going to know all this sort of shit. When the next door neighbour's daughter's boyfriend that has a 351 how he comes in, at certain day, on the Saturday to pick up the girl, all these sorts of things. So it's really assisting to tell the story and to show your house, your property, your apartment in the best light. It's very, very important. There was a property that in the Central Mountains that I said to our client that if I was the selling agent, he would have had to pay me an extra $100,000 for the property than what we paid. And he looks at me and he goes, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Mate, look at the spectacular view of the city. You could see the city skyline and the harbour bridge from this big wraparound porch area that this house has, right?" And I said, "Mate, I would be holding the auction at 6:30 in the morning for all the interested parties, and I would be serving breakfast, decked out on the tables on the front porch, because this is it was magnificent. They would be getting some spectacular sunrises, but hey, I'm not there to teach them how to sell. And we viewed the property most of the time when it was dull and dreary, and as much as the agent said, "Oh, there's great views of the city," but it was during the day when all the smog had risen and you couldn't see a damn thing. All you'd see is just the treetops and smog. But that's what you would do, and this is why it's important to be able to choose the hours and be able to choose the days, as you so said, Martin, because you want the people to look at the property in its best light. So and that's part of the storytelling, part of the memories that people can create, and this and that, obviously, and you avoid the nasties, and it's all about perceiving the good value, the value adds to the property. So oftentimes in Sydney, when we've assisted people in parts of Sydney in preparing the homes for sale, the agents will try and dictate the time of the day because they are so committed. And this is something else that people have got to consider when they're using an agent, or they're choosing an agent. You've got to ask the question: are you going to be the one attending to the inquiry, or are you going to point two of your junior assistants at the open house inspections, and when they don't know nothing about it? I am hiring you. I am contracting you. Therefore, if you want this job, I want you here front and center, and these are the hours and these are the days that I want you here. And if you're not prepared to do that, piss off.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, going back to Adam, he was always there, to show you around personally. So I had that that personal connection with him, and he was able to actually shepherd everybody around. So he didn't just outsource it to other people. Now, there's an interesting comment from Nigel here, and he actually asked a couple of other questions. Tenants. When you've got a tenant in the property, and in fact, I think in this case, the tenant's quite well behaved and is looking after the property well, is it easier to sell an empty house or a house with a sitting tenant? What's your thoughts on that one, Edwin?
Oh, if it's a choice between selling an empty house or a house with a tenant, I go with the tenant every day of the week, because it gives it that. It gives a house that's being lived in is more charming. And this is Nigel Ratbag, right? This is Nigel Ratbag from the Northern Territory that we're talking about. So yeah, I'd be selling the house with a tenant. And you work with the tenant. You make sure that the selling agent is working with the tenant, with the property manager, and the tenant in order to. And you make the tenant's life. You facilitate the tenants. What we used to do with our tenants, Martin, when we were selling properties that were tenanted, when I had the office and was on the side of selling and property management, we used to give the tenants coffee and breakfast vouchers, or coffee and lunch vouchers, if depending on the time of the day, because obviously we were using their home, so it was rewarding them. Sometimes we would also reward them with a clean before the campaign, and to allow us to a professional clean, and that nobody took took any ends with that. They really appreciated it, and the fact that it was often the case that because investors were buying most of the properties that we used to sell were apartments in townhouses. So investors would buy, and then after the purchase, we would again reward them with something with a thank you gift as well. So if you can work with your tenant, the tenant adds a lot of value to a property, particularly around home, because it makes it more, it gives it that more homely aspect, right? I mean, you've heard the old stories where when you're, I don't know if you may have heard of Martin, coming from England and from Europe, when you're selling a house, you have the coffee brewing in the background, so it can give you that aroma of
bread cooking in the bread maker. That was my trick.
Yeah, or banana bread. And I mean, you go a step further, and you actually serve the banana bread at the open house as well, and you offer a cup of coffee. Why not, right? This is a funny story. This is a true story, Martin. I'm going to tell you a true story. When I was working in an independent agency, so this is in Castle Hill. I was working for an independent agency in my early days as a selling agent, and one of my colleagues had mentioned to the vendor, look, it'd be a great idea if you got the kettle going, or you got some coffee going, or even bake some a cake or bread. True story in Kellyville. I'm trying to remember the agent's name. And anyway, so he tells his vendor that, but the vendor forgot to tell my colleague that to turn the oven off, and the bloody thing, there was a fire in the oven. I don't know how it happened. I don't know what she was baking, but there was a fire in the oven during the open house inspection. The lucky thing was it was in the time, in the early 2000s, where it was damn difficult to sell property back then. Two people turning up to an open house inspection was you were celebrating. After that was you were just celebrating. It was unusual to see two groups of people turn up for an open house inspection. So it was lucky for him that nobody turned up for the open house inspection, because he had spent most of the time trying to clear the smoke from the bloody kitchen and put the fire out. True story.
Oh well, I think things can sometimes go wrong.
There was a recent story in the news where at an open house inspection, the agent threw some linen on top of the dryer or something in the laundry. Then the dryer was on, and the bloody thing caught on fire, and it was actually news. It was on news.com. The story was only about 5 or 6 weeks ago, or might have been a little bit longer, might have been 8 weeks ago. People should look into it.
Yeah, very good. Well, Edwin, we've pretty much come to the end. Have we missed anything important? I think we've covered the sale journey. Obviously, once you've actually got a prospective purchaser, there's the mechanics of the contract and everything else, and you need to get your conveyancer or your solicitor in on the deal. Of course, the solicitor should have been involved to create the draft contract initially, so it should be relatively free. I know when I was selling my property, I discovered that my solicitor was actually on holiday overseas at the time when the sale process was getting close. So I actually had to exchange conversation with him via email overseas, and he actually. So it's worth just checking with your your solicitor. Are they going to be around at the right time?
Yeah, look, it's one of those things that once you've got all your checks and you got to have all your checks and balances done right. Make sure all the legal documentation, because agents aren't allowed to take properties to sale without the proper documentation on hand, and that being the draft contract of sale with all its it's in totality. So you've got to get all those legal requirements. Obviously, then your agency agreements. We've spoken about that. The agency agreements right now in the Sydney region, the average commission, on an average commission, it's anywhere between 1.2 and 1.5% for those that would like to know, and that's inclusive of GST because of the price points that the properties are selling for. Obviously, the lower price brackets, you can get up to 2%. You can be paying up to 2% by way of commission, and in the higher end, there are agents that are taking on higher end properties at 0.5% inclusive of GST, again because of the price points and the marketing fees that they attract up front, and it's more prestigious to have a high end property in your books as well, because that leads to other business. So look, one of the things, Martin, is that everything is negotiable. Everything is negotiable. The agent's commissions are negotiable. The marketing fees are negotiable. Everything is negotiable if the agents want to have your custom. And when you start looking at the average commissions, as I said, the average time that a selling agent spends on a property from A to Z, from the starting the process to the concluding the sale, from the photography or assisting you with helping you prepare the home to concluding the sale, handing the keys over to the new purchaser. The average time is 17 hours. Obviously, those 17 hours are spent over across. That's the average. Now, I'm a believer that they should be spending a lot more time. There should be more open house. They should extend the open house inspections for that, to have that, get the buyers to make that emotional attachment with the property, because obviously you want to. The dream buyers are emotion driven. The hagglers are more numbers driven, or the investors. The investors are more your numbers driven, and but the emotional buyers are more driven by. Your dream buyers are more driven by emotion. So everything is negotiable with the selling agent. Don't let them tell you otherwise. And more to the point, in the Sydney region, as the listings for sale on market are relatively low still across the Sydney region, more so than ever. Things become more negotiable. You can demand more of the selling agents because they need it. They need that commission. They need that job. They also need your listing in order to be able to get other listings in the area.
Yeah, Edwin, indeed. Now, here's a slightly curved ball as we come to the show, and you are happy to decline. Would Edwin be happy to share the cost involved in using a service like himself? So, everything's negotiable.
Depends what you want to use me for, boss man. I do have limits. It's my fee is a fixed fee, because I have a fixed fee, and that is negotiated with the vendors, because I take carriage of interviewing the agents. I do put reports for the owners of the property, for what I would consider my clients. I then also assist with organising tradespeople and enable bodies to prepare the properties for sale. So it all comes back to I work out on average how long I'm going to be hands-on, and I also manage help the vendors to manage the process all the way through to even negotiating. Even on the day of the auction, one of our clients, I'm not sure if he's watching, he may be watching, one of our clients, the auctioneer, I was sitting with my clients in the house whilst the auction was being conducted outside, and the auctioneer comes in and he says, I think we've reached the limit. And I just said, look, go out there and try and squeeze them for another 5,000 or 10,000. I mean, I'm sure there's a little bit more juice in there. And then it goes out, comes back 5 minutes later. Look, I've got 500. I don't think anybody wants to me. I don't want them to walk. I don't want them to walk away, blah, blah, blah. And my clients are sitting right next to me, and the principal of the offers, the agent that we contracted to do the sale, and the auctioneer, they couldn't put any pressure on my clients, so they had to look at me. They're all coming to me, and I'm just sitting there, sitting cool as a cucumber. And I said, I'll tell you what we'll do. Although my clients want an extra 10,000, but I'm sure they're going to be happy to meet you guys halfway. So if you accept that last bid that's on there right now, and you're going to drop the hammer on the last bid, we'll meet you halfway. You forfeit $5,000 from your commission. And that's, although my clients want 10 grand, you forfeit 5, we'll let you have the other 5, and how's that? So even up to the point of that decision, I negotiated an extra $5,000 less on the commission. So rather than paying $27,000 in commissions, they only paid $22,000 at the end of the day. So everything's negotiable right up until the end. So that's what I do. I sit with you and I look at I look at it from how much time I need to spend, what you require me to assist you with, and if it's is it just part of the journey? Is it just to interview the agents and select the campaign, or is it the whole gamut from helping you prepare the house to actually being there on the day of the sale and helping you negotiate the best price with the highest bidder.
Yeah, the point is, Edwin, it's a game, isn't it? And so it's important to have the right coach and the right team and the right game plan and the right strategy, right? And this is why I called it, it's a game. And that's really important to understand. And those who actually can master the game have a much greater chance of winning out relative to other people. Well, Edwin, we've come to the end of the show. I want to say thank you very much indeed for sharing your insights tonight and answering the questions in the chat. I will just remind everybody that if it's anybody in the Sydney region is interested in picking up with Edwin, we are offering one free conversation, an hour's conversation probably, in the Sydney region for Edwin. If you want to follow that up, you need to go to the DFA blog, click on the little help button, and then go to the contact form and just send your details across. We won't use that information for any other market or anything. It's just to enable me to basically keep a list of those who are interested. And the offer will close at the end of May. And I will be announcing with Edwin on one of the rants the name of the person who was successful. So it's there if you'd like to enter. You have an opportunity, and as I say, I'll pick from the list, and it'll be completely random. So there you go, Edwin. I want to say thank you very much. Any last thoughts before we go?
No, look, if people want to reach me, reach out to me, or if they need any assistance, or just a quick DM, they can DM me on Just Think One on my X account. That's Just Think One. DM me on that, or obviously reach out to me on the email that you often put on some of the videos that are put out there, that you put out, the sponsored videos there. Happy to have an email conversation. I won't give out my number, otherwise I won't be able to meet my other commitments with everyone else.
Absolutely. Well, the links and things are in the comments and the show notes. So that's the way to get hold of Edwin, or indeed on Twitter, X. He's a very active Twitterer. I can't say an Xerer; it doesn't work. So Twitterer. Anyway, Edwin, thank you very much. I appreciate your time tonight. I'm going to take you off air now, and I'll just close the show. See ya.
All the best.
So there you go, folks. Hope you enjoyed that. Now, next week, I have Robbie Barwick coming back. The reason is that the final report relating to the bank branch closures in regional areas will be out, and it'll be a good opportunity to examine the report and decide what needs to be done next. And so mark your diary on that. And I should tell you that the week after that, there will be no show in a fortnight's time. The reason is that the power is going to get turned off here for 2 or 3 days on intermittently while I do some work in the road, which means that I can't predictably run a show, so I'm not going to even try for that particular Tuesday week. So Robbie Barwick next week off, and then the week after that, Steve Keen's coming on. So keep an idea on that. Now, just before I go, to show you the doggies, they're still there. There you go, sound asleep. They've been very quiet. Luna's half out of the picture. I'll just zoom out slightly to give you a slightly clearer view of. There's Luna there. She's sort of oozed out of the bed she's in at the moment. So that's the story there. And thank you very much indeed for spending some time with us. I hope you found this an interesting conversation with Edwin. Check back with his weekly rants on a Monday, and check back for the live show next Tuesday. And of course, the recorded shows that are posted every day. This is Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics signing off. We'll see you next time. See ya.